Welcome to the final project recording for web design. You can see that the final project is actually in week 7, and of course with Thanksgiving week the weeks have been thrown off a little bit, but really what we're looking at is the last week of the class. So it could be, it's probably actually week 8, or if you're taking this class at a different time it could be a different week, but anyway, it's the final project unit. So the final project unit, you're going to of course do this write-up, and then you have 1, 2, 3, then you have 4 assignments for the final project. And now for next week, you continue the final project, and it has a series of assignments. But this is what we're going to be focusing on this week. So I'm going to close that, and we'll go on down here to final project production. So here we are. And we look at the week 7 write-up first, of course, like we always do. So for this final project, what you're going to do is you're going to do research on some people that are in a topic that you're interested in. Could be sports, music, fashion, movies, anything that you have interest in. And you can see the questions. How many people will you research? How many websites will you need to use? What is the minimum number of pages? How you organize your pages of information for each person? What will you create to help you make all your pages look similar? How do you have to use buttons? Do you have to use buttons for your navigation bar? What will the file name of the template file be for all your pages? What folder will you save the images for your project? How many folders will you set up for your project about all the people? And 4 names of people you might use. So that's what this is all about. So let's go through it. So in this, as you can see what it does, you have research for your final project. So your final project, you're going to research 4 people that are famous in one of the following fields: science, math, politics, art, athletics. Now that's what this requires, but I'm letting you can do 4 famous people. It could be TV personalities, movie personalities, people in music. So I'm going to open it up a little bit, give you more options on that. Now you need to use, for research, you need to use at least 2 websites for each person, and you're going to find this information about the people. So you're going to have to cite at least 2 websites. Remember, you want to take notes in your word processor program, including the copyright information. We learned about copyright information before, because you need to show where you get your information. You need to find images for them, and you're going to have in your Unit 5 folder, you're going to make an images folder inside the Unit 5 folder to help you out. Again, make sure you include the copyright information. And this says, do not wait to finish your research before you start the assignments. You're going to be able to do lots of the assignments before you finish your research. You can see there are a bunch of assignments that you'll end up doing. There are lots of points in this project. Your website must have at least 9 pages. You can have more if you want, but it must have at least 9. So if you think about that, it'll have an introduction page at the minimum. It'll have an introduction page. Then it would have 2 pages for each person, because that 2 pages for each person would be 8. And then the introduction page would be the 9th page. Now this first assignment, project plan assignment, all you're going to do is you're going to create something similar to this. You can use a drawing program. You could use an image program. But you need to create something similar to this that will give an idea of what your layout will look like. So make sure you do that properly. You can see how this is done. So you're going to decide on the topic you want to do and the people you want to research. Include that information in your plan. Use a graphics or drawing program to make this layout. Save your file as plan.doc if you're doing it in a Word document, or as plan.txt, just anything called plan, just so you can get it to me in your Unit 5 folder. and then you make, in your Unit 5 folder, you make a folder for each person, and then you zip your Unit 5 folder and submit it. So when you submit your Unit 5 folder, I will see a folder for each person, and I will see this plan assignment. So this is pretty easy. So that's the first assignment. Next, color and style project. Now this says you need to use CSS. You don't have to use CSS. You may use CSS. You're going to have a file called final.css if you choose to do that. But if you don't use CSS, of course, remember CSS lets you make all the pages look exactly the same. If you don't use CSS, then you do need to make sure that all your fonts are the same from page to page, that you choose the same colors on your pages, etc. So it all looks the same. So you may or may not submit a CSS file. If not, that's fine. What you do need to write the essay explaining your plan is for the look of the website, and it should include all of this information. You can just call it essay in a Unit 5 folder. So that's what I will grade this on, as essay. So you don't have to do the CSS, but you do need to submit this essay talking about your plan. It says 200 to 250 words. That's a lot. But I do expect you more to then say, my background colors will be blue, my text color will be green, and that's what I'm going to use. It needs to be more than this. Then you'll submit your Unit 5 folder. So that's a fairly easy 24 points, isn't it? Okay, next. Now the research part. So in the research part, of course, you've turned in some, or in this one, you're going to turn in some notes in the graphics that you're going to be using. So you're doing your research, and remember, at least 2 web pages for each person, and at least 1 photo for each person. Remember, you have to have the correct copyright information for where you find your information. So your graphics you'll save in the Unit 5 Images folder. So if you're doing football, like Bronco football, you would find a picture of John Elway. Then you find a picture of Peyton Manning, or then a couple of other Bronco people. And each of those people will have their own folders. Resize the graphics so it's proper size, name it right, make sure it's JPEG. Okay. And remember, with the images, you also need to have your citations. So you're going to give me a list of the images and the citations, where you got the images from. You're going to save that as graphics.doc or graphics.txt, however you want to save your file. And that's going to be in your Unit 5 Images folder. So setting up the notes and turning in, organize your notes so you have a separate section of your word processor document for each person. Type the person's name at the top of the section, include the copyright information, put all the information you gathered about that person. So you're going to do this for all 4 of the people. Then you're going to put that in the Unit 5 folder and submit it. So in this assignment, you'll have a graphic for each person, and you'll have research notes for each person. Make sure you include all this information down at the bottom. Now this has you create a template, and in creating a template, this is the way that you can very easily have everything be similar. So you can start with your first person and set up your template with your first person with the text, the background colors, and things like that. And then you can use the same template for each person. That's what I would do. And then that allows you to avoid using CSS. So that's what I would do. Now this says you have to put buttons on your nav bar. You do not have to use buttons on your nav bar. Your nav bar can just be text links. You do not have to use buttons on your nav bar. So this shows you how to make a template. And it also talks about doing the CSS. Again, you do not have to do CSS on this. You can just make a template file, and then that template file is what you would use for all of your pages. You would open up that template file to make your different pages, so you do not have to use CSS. So this may be an example of what a page might look like. Of course, I'm not doing it. That's not going to be the image you would use. You would use a professional like we looked at So like this says, purpose of a template is to make every page look the same. So once you have the template, then all you have to do is just, like this says, you're just going to rename it different names each time. And you'll be able to use that template with all the different people. Now, of course, as you save your names, you're going to save everything in Unit 5 folder. When you save your work, you're going to have a folder for each of your 4 people. The template assignment, so you make all the pages for the first person, save each page in the person's folder, and you're going to do it for all of your people, right? Now, self-evaluation, this will be the grading rubric. So have you done all that stuff? Make sure your links work, all of that. And then finally, your index page needs that same background, style, font as the original page, but it can have a different layout. So then you're going to create your index page. And here's a sample, so you can see here's a sample of an index page. So it could be, famous athletes, famous musicians, famous artists, whatever it happens to be. And then as I go through this, then I should be able to click on the person or the word, probably the person, and then it would go to their page. So again, you're going to have the index page and then all of the individual pages. And it's all going to be in Unit 5 zipped. Unit 5 folder zipped. Alright, I'm going to go to the write-up and how many pages for your research project, talked about that. How many websites for each person, talked about that. Minimum number of pages, you saw that. How you organize your pages information for each person. Well, you're going to have folders for each person, right? What will you create to help make sure all your pages look similar? You'll create a template, won't you? Do you have to use nav buttons for navbar? No, you can use a text links for your navbar. What will the file name of the template file you create to help all your pages? That's going to be the name, whatever name you give it. But I want you to think ahead a little bit. What folder will you save the images used for your project? Or you're going to save it in the images folder in the Unit 5 folder. How many folders will you set up in your project to save information about the people you research? Well, how many people are there? However many people there are in your research, that's how many folders you're going to have set up, right? And give me 4 names of people you might use for your project. You can change that later. So that's what this project is. And I'm not going to put together a full recording for how to do this. I really just talked about how to do all this project. But the thing to keep in mind when we look at this again, this project is worth a lot of points. Look at that. This project is worth 50, 80, 120. This project is worth about over 200 points. So if you do all this, then it's going to be great. Or actually the project is, sorry. Maybe not quite. There's 100. Yeah, right. It's a little over 200 points. And then, of course, you have the final exam. And the final exam preview is right down there. So you have all that for you. So that's all I have for you. Go back to the course home. And that's week 7. Then in week 8, there is no write-up. So this is the last write-up. But this write-up covers everything for week 7 and 8 as does this video. So thank you, everybody. I look forward to your work coming in. And some of you really need to get going. And before we end, just want to show you something. Here's a sample of work you do to pass this class. You can see that all this work would add up to 610 points. So if I go down this list, and you want to look here at column D. So on that assignment, you get 30. In fact, let me get column B out of there. Get both of those out of there. That was the grade from another student. So if you take a look at this, all of these things add up to 610. So you can see the different grades one can possibly get. And this is even skipping the invitation assignment, skipping the Webmaster Roles assignment, skipping a lot of the WYSIWYG work, if you chose to skip all that stuff. And then you pick up your points as you get into the last work of this class, the last 2 units. And this is even skipping a template assignment and final project assignment. you can still pass this class with 610 points. So there's an idea that some of you might want to look at if you're way behind. Alright, that's all I have, everyone. Thanks for watching. I look forward to your work coming in. Bye.